Welcome to the podcast that will teach you how to successfully invest in and build steady streams of passive income from the highly lucrative niche of mobile home park investing. Veteran real estate investors Kevin Bupp and Charles Dehart from Mobile Home Park Academy will personally share with you the valuable lessons they've learned along their journey as mobile home park investors, so that you too can learn how to build massive cash flow and huge profits from this extremely lucrative niche. So without further ado, let's welcome your hosts for today's show, Kevin Bupp and Charles Dehart.
Welcome, guys and gals, to the Mobile Home Park Academy's weekly podcast, where we'll provide all the information that you need to know to successfully locate, negotiate, close on, and make huge profits from the lucrative niche of mobile home park investing. I'm your host, Kevin Bupp, and today's show, we're going to be speaking with real estate expert and recovering mobile home park investor, Kevin Easterly. Now, I actually met Kevin a few months back at a high-level mastermind group that I'm a part of, and during that time, we got talking about his, I guess you could say his short stint, not very short, it's a couple years long, but his time as a mobile home park investor. And really, long story short, and I'm going to let him kind of give his take on it, but it was somewhat disastrous, and he did just about everything wrong. And I'm not going to give him too much heck here, but he did just about everything wrong. But that's okay, because he learned a lot of lessons from that experience. He's done a lot of other great things throughout his life as far as real estate investments and multiple different businesses, franchises, and such. But really, the goal here today is to kind of dissect this deal, how he found it, how he got into it, and just really try to figure out what those exact mistakes were, so that you guys can, as you go along investing in your own mobile home parks, you can make sure that you've got these in the back of your mind and that you don't make these same exact mistakes. Most of these things could have been avoided with just a little bit of education, just like the show we're doing here today. I mean, listen into this, take notes, and make sure that you apply them to your mobile home park investing business, whether it's buying your first one or buying your 10th one. It doesn't really matter. They're all going to be applicable. So, guys, I'm super excited to have a candid conversation here with Kevin. But before we do, just got a couple laundry items that I want to run through. First and foremost, as I always mention here on the show, we're always looking for deals. We've got capital available to us, and we're always hot on the hunt for new mobile home parks. So if you happen to come across something that maybe you just can't take down, you're looking for a finder's fee, we'll pay it to you. If you found something you can't take down yourself, it's too big, you don't have the capital necessary or the operational expertise, let's talk about a joint venture opportunity, okay? So we're always out there on the hunt. Typically, we will look for parks that are about 60 spaces or larger. The bigger, the better. I'll keep it at that. The bigger, the better. And we'll buy nationwide. However, we do like to kind of stay away from the states that enjoy rent control, which now are New York, Oregon, and California. And there might be a few other ones in there, but I think those are the really big ones that we try to stick away from. Second up here, you guys, if you love what we're doing here, please take a moment, go subscribe to the show, and also leave a review and rating on iTunes. And just to show my gratitude in return, I'll give you a copy of the exact cold call script that we use in our very own business. Now, I'd say that we bought somewhere between probably $20 to $25 million worth of parks from this cold calling script. Okay, we do a lot of direct owner marketing, one of those being cold calling directly to owners. Okay, so if you leave that review in iTunes, send us a screenshot of that review to gift@mobilehomeparkacademy.com, and then shortly thereafter we will send you the copy of the cold call script so you can get rolling on your cold calling efforts and hopefully buy millions of dollars worth of parks from it. Lastly, guys, if you'd like to schedule a 30-minute call with me, I've been doing this for many years now. This is where every Friday I set aside a couple 30-minute appointments to get on with my listeners and talk about anything and everything your heart desires regarding real estate investing. It doesn't even have to be just about mobile home parks. Go to my website, kevinbupp.com, to get that call scheduled, and I'll look forward to connecting with you. So, without further ado, let's get on to the part of the show that you guys have been waiting for, which is with my good friend, mobile home park investor, Kevin Easterly. Kevin, how you doing, buddy?
Great, man. How you doing? Thanks for being on the show. This is awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you, man. I've been thinking about this show now for the last couple of months since we got chatting out there in Denver. I think maybe it was while we were riding scooters around downtown Denver.
We're burdened with Bupp.
We're burdened with Bupp, man. Having fun, learning a lot, networking, and I didn't know Kevin prior to that. However, we got talking and had some great conversations, and that's when you kind of let me know the fact that you had once ventured into the mobile home park space. Today, you do not own that park any longer, but it wasn't the best experience for you. However, I always like to say that failures equal, lessons. We just got to understand what that lesson is and make sure that we don't make that same mistake moving forward. And so there were lots of different lessons that you took away from that mobile home park investing experience. So what I love to do, Kevin, is kind of just dissect the whole deal. Let's break it down as much as we can, because at the end of the day, the folks that are listening here, either they're out there looking for parks or they currently own parks. And our goal here is to make sure that they don't make these same mistakes, or that they can at least identify them and see and maybe an alternate solution to them. Okay. So let's start with, I guess first and foremost, what was the catalyst to your interest in the mobile home park space? How'd you find out about it?
So great question. I went to, I had a video business at the time doing weddings, and I was shooting a wedding in Beverly Hills at a gentleman's house in a big mansion. And I remember asking him, I said, "What do you do for a living?" And he's like, "I buy and sell distressed mobile home parks." And so I was like, "That's cool. I want to go buy and sell distressed mobile home parks. That's awesome. I want to do this life and live here." So I literally went online, Googled mobile home park investments, purchases, this, that, and the other, found a couple forums. This was 2012, 13, found a couple forums. Lo and behold, found this gentleman that dealt with mobile home parks in the South. Now I live in California, and for some reason I've never been to Alabama. I figured that was a great first spot to buy.
Very, very interesting. So I'm guessing that you didn't buy the first one that you saw. You called this broker. The broker maybe sent you a listing sheet of the different deals that he had available for sale. Tell me what that experience or that process looked like, and what ultimately led you to that, the deal that you ended up buying.
Yeah. So I had so he gave me about a list of 10 different parks, the cost of the park, the return on the park, and where the park was, with some pictures on a Microsoft Word with the pro formas on there and the expenses, which I have the Microsoft Word sitting right in front of me.
Oh my gosh.
And so I looked at it, and being a new investor, I had never bought any real estate at this point in my life. And so I looked at it. What do I look at first? I look at the most money and the most NOI. And so that brought me down to a deep South, Anniston, Alabama, park-owned homes, pig. We were gonna turn it around. We were gonna fill, 37 spaces, 22 rented, and 14 vacant lots. And we were gonna buy 14 mobile homes for $4K each and rent them out. And the pro forma was looking like a 50% cap rate possible, 850 plus 500, all these crazy numbers, man. So I got sold the dream.
Okay. So it was 50 what lots? What were the numbers you threw out there? Okay.
37 spaces.
Okay.
The purchase price was $450K. It was $150K down and assume a $275K loan at 6%. 37 spaces. And it was interest-only loan, I was assuming. 22 rented and 14 vacant lots, and then 2 homes that were vacant and 1 tenant-owned trailer.
Got it. Now, did you go visit this park before you purchased it?
Yes. So I talked to the guy. He lived in Sacramento, and he goes, "Come to my office." So I flew up there, met him in his office. He goes, "Here we are. Here's the deal. We'll meet out in Alabama, do our thing." So I was like, "All right, cool." Went out to Alabama. I didn't know anything I was looking for. I didn't know that dirt driveways and dirt roads were bad. I didn't know that septic tanks were bad. I didn't know that to check the septic tanks. I didn't know that well and not city sewer was bad. All this stuff. So it was wells. It was seeping septic tanks, by the way. Oh. It was dirt roads, and it was park-owned homes with 14 lots. And I was like, man, this thing's got potential.
Cash flow king. That's all you're thinking of, right?
Yeah,
all right. I'm looking up Anniston, Alabama to see what the demographics look like. Because, Anniston's we actually own some parks in smaller markets than in Anniston. So, the size of Anniston doesn't necessarily concern me. And we're not going to speak to any names here. I actually know the broker. I've seen many parks come across my desk in Anniston or the immediate surrounding areas. I'm looking here at the stats of Anniston and the population of 22,000. So a very small market. Unemployment rate's 5.5%, which is above the national average. It's actually part of the Anniston, Oxford, Jacksonville metro area. The crime is fairly high in Anniston. That's one thing that's immediate, attention grabber of mine when we're looking at a different market to buy in. Because typically, if you're buying a mobile home park, especially like a C grade or D grade mobile home park, and it's an area that has high crime, guess where that crime's attracted to? They're probably attracted to the area that you actually own, and you're going to be housing those folks. So, one thing to be concerned about. Let's talk about your first visit there. So, forget about everything else. Obviously, we know that I wouldn't say septics are bad and well are bad. We own septics, we own wells. There's a very deep due diligence process we go through to make determinations of the risk associated with those different private utilities. And then we kind of look at the big picture together and see, if we're comfortable with that overall risk. Obviously, you had a lot of different factors kind of weighing all in, like almost all the worst factors kind of piled all on top of one another. But let's back up a little bit. Let's just talk about your first visit. Like when you went there, I mean, I'm a firm believer in like gut will take you to a certain extent, right? Like gut will talk to you a little bit. You had a lot of new elements going on around you, so it was probably a little overwhelming. But tell me about that. Just the first experience stepping, I guess, into the town of Anniston or into that mobile home park. I mean, what was your gut telling you? Was it still saying, "Hey, man, 50% cash on cash return," or whatever it was, 50% cap, 50% cap rate? Let's still go forward with this, or were you kind of having doubts about the deal at that point?
No, I'm not going to lie. When I walked and I showed up to this place and I pulled into it was a abandoned building up above it. And I drove down into the grove with trees all over it. And there was all these shady people in there, and I looked at it and I got out and I figured this is just how they roll. I'm like, this must be the mobile home park business. Cause I didn't do my due diligence before, obviously. So he sold me. He's like, yeah, this is great. We got this. I met the manager. It was all great. We saw the game plan going in. He told me that he was going to manage it for me and no problem. And he was a third party manager. There was $300 a month and he was going to take care of everything. We're going to make a ton of money.
$300 a month. That's very kind of him.
Yeah. So I said, great, looks good. I'm like, I don't have time. I'm running a business. This is perfect. This is what I wanted. I'm going to get into the real estate business. So Did that answer your question? So my first gut was shady, but I believed them.
Yeah. So, okay. That's good. So guys, when you're rolling into a mobile home park, I mean, now if you grew up in like Bel Air, and you're used to, that type of environment, probably any mobile home park might seem shady to you. But I mean, if you're a realist and you just grew up in a normal family, you probably grew up in a town that had a mobile home park or two, or probably more than that. Maybe you haven't driven through them, but at least you've seen them before. And so, you shouldn't feel like you need to lock your doors. Generally speaking, you shouldn't feel like you have to lock your doors. Going there at nighttime shouldn't concern you. If it does, then you might want to, I wouldn't say run away, but just look a little deeper, find out what the element is that you're about to assume, meaning like the demographic that you're about to take on, and whether or not it's worth your time and day. At the end, what I feel is that I don't care what kind of cash on cash return, what kind of profits I can make. There's only one life here, and life is really short, right? And so like dealing with that type of clientele, it just isn't worth it. Forget about all the numbers and all the what ifs of how much money you can make. It's just not worth dealing with that type of clientele. Okay, so moving on, you felt a little shady, but you're like, you know what? Maybe this is just the mobile home park space. Maybe that's what it is. Did you do any due diligence on the private utilities? Obviously, I'm guessing that the broker probably sold you on like expenses are low because you got septics. They kind of take care of themselves. The well, you don't have to pay for water. Everything's great. Is that
1965? Yeah, it was a 1965, I believe, or 68 build. I didn't even know you're supposed to check the utilities. I just said, oh, cool, it's well and septic. And then, the biggest thing I would say is go to like a seminar or start learning and get everything down, like on this podcast or a seminar or whatever you need to do to get the basics down, right? Like if it's well, go get the well tanks checked, right? Would that be, because these things were seeping, these had seepage left and right, and it came to the point in like a year where I had to buy new well tanks.
Yeah.
So
it's a big deal.
That was a huge expense. Yeah.
No, we hire in any local market. There's going to be experts, typically companies that specialize in maintaining well systems for private owners and municipalities. The same thing goes with private sewer systems, whether it's septic systems or wastewater treatment plants. There's companies that specialize in those types of private utilities. And so, well, to me, so you got well and you got, private sewer. Private sewer, again, can mean septic tanks. It can mean wastewater treatment plants or lagoons.
Treatment plants.
Wastewater treatment plants, lagoons. Well, wastewater treatment plants are pretty common. Septics are very common. Lagoons, not so much, unless you're like in the Midwest. It seems like they're a lot more prevalent there. However, the one thing I always like to say is that you can't really poison anyone with sewage, meaning that unless someone's drinking or eating the poo, like you're not going to poison them, right? And so, but with a well, you surely can. It's a big deal. Like you've got a massive responsibility when you're taking on a community drinking water system, right? Like that's what you're doing. You've got a well in the ground and you're supplying the water like a municipality might be doing to, multiple different families, folks that are drinking. And this water, it just can't come out of the well and go directly to their faucets. It doesn't work that way. There's chlorinator systems. There's different processes and filters that get set up to take the hard minerals out, any kind of the dangerous elements out of the water so that it becomes clean drinking water. And if that system goes awry, it can cause major problems, such as a lawsuit. You can get people really, really sick. And so it's dangerous not knowing what you have there or what you don't have. And additionally, there's regulatory standards that can get changed, and so that well, probably what you realize is that either your system was failing, or maybe there were some government agencies kind of breathing down your neck a little bit, saying you got to upgrade the system. I don't know exactly how that played out.
It's failing.
Yeah, it's failing. So you got to upgrade the system. That costs you, probably thousands of dollars, maybe tens of thousands of dollars. I'm not sure how much, but it's fairly expensive. So you definitely have to get a professional out there to look at the system, go through a complete evaluation, get a life expectancy of the different components, and then really create a budget based on what things you might have to replace or what might go wrong. I mean, even in certain parks that we own, the well systems are, you have to look at, what the flow rate is. Can it truly provide the amount of water that's really needed to provide the right water pressure so people can take a normal shower throughout the entire community? Like, is that realistic, or is that going to be a problem where people are calling me because they literally have to, they have to stand underneath a dripping, shower faucet, right? It's just, there's all these different elements involved there, but get a professional. I don't know that stuff. I kind of know what to generally look for on a report, but I'm not the guy that digs into the well and digs into the systems. Hire a professional to do that. Same goes with sewer systems. Get a professional out there, get an engineer out there to kind of dive into it, and that all costs money. I think that's where a lot of new investors. It doesn't matter if it's mobile home parks or apartments or any other type of real estate. New investors that have a limited budget. It seems they tend to, and I'm not saying you at all, but just generally speaking, they tend to skimp out a little bit. If they know what they should be doing, they still skimp out because it costs money, and those are real pursuit costs that you have the chance of losing if you don't do that deal. And you're hiring experts for tens of thousands of dollars, and there's still not 100% chance this deal is going to get done. And that's a tough pill to swallow, especially if it's your first deal or if you're just getting into into the real estate investment space. So you had the well system kind of failing on you. Had to replace that, which kind of sucks. What was the next big? What was the next big, like, holy crap, what's happening here? Like, what happened?
So I started getting the actual P&Ls every month and realizing that this thing wasn't making money. And it was just all of a sudden I would see repairs and maintenance. And then I would see, what are the other ones here that I have? And then it was, oh, so-and-so moved out. They didn't pay their rent and they just left. They skipped, right? And then it was, more tools and more like a new toilet, right? And all this stuff that was inside. And then I've come to figure out down the road when I started, I tried to self-manage it, and I was figuring out, like, they were just telling me there's a toilet broken to get more money, and there was nothing I could do. And I'm like, okay, great. So the toilet's broke again, and I was naive, and I'm like, okay, great. Here's another $150. And then they're like, oh, that took me 30 hours. And it took me a long time to realize, like, how their hours are working and what's going on. And Johnny's over here helping them. So it was a lot, man, in a little amount of time. So I actually fired them, and I flew out there, and I went onto the property, and I'm like, I'm managing this thing myself. I'm going directly to the manager. So I got in there. We rented a U-Haul truck. We put a guy on top. We were cutting down tree limbs.
Oh, my God.
I just got in. We were moving people out. We were reflooring. I was laying under the things with them, putting the PEX pipe in there, like, just learning everything. I'm like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm not going to lose. I'm not going to lose. And I started self-managing it. And then we got the thing, like, half, not like 3/4 full. I was cruising, but then I found out the tenants were all crap because there's a drug dealer that was running the property. So it was like, it was one thing after another, man.
So the tenants probably they probably never had a real screening process in place, I'm guessing, right? Like if they could fog a mirror, they could probably move into one of those mobile homes. And I'm guessing that just from what you're telling me, those mobile homes over the years probably haven't been maintained all that well. They've probably been Band-Aid together. And so you get what you pay for. If you got park-owned homes in your community and they're old, just because they're old doesn't mean they have to be beat up and it just, kind of crap boxes. I mean, it doesn't, we have some really old homes that are really, really nice, but you got to put money into them just like you do a regular apartment or single family residence. And so you kind of get what you pay for. And so we've seen this many different times. In fact, we bought probably one of our best buys ever was a park. It was a park up in Richmond, Virginia, and it came with, I believe, like right around 30 park-owned homes. The rest were tenant-owned, and the tenant-owned were, they had been there for a long time. I think there was like 25 or so tenant-owned. I think it was 58 spaces in total of the park, and the park, the gross income was phenomenal on the P&L. But he was losing his butt for like the last 25 years on these rentals because he literally, the only thing he did wrong, the park was in perfect condition. Like he spent so much money fixing up these used, very old mobile homes. So like they weren't neglected. They didn't have deferred maintenance. He'd put new roofs on them. He'd put new furnaces in them. He'd put new subfloors in them. He'd reconfigure the floor plan of old homes so they had bigger rooms. Wow. I mean, he'd do everything. And so from the outside looking in, everything looked great. However, his turn rate and his burn rate of people coming in and going out, what was going on is people would move in, they'd pay him the first month's rent and a security deposit. They'd stop paying rent the second or third month. He'd have to go through the eviction process. They'd beat up the unit a little bit, sometimes worse than others. And then they have to go in and do some rehab. So they basically net zero or there was a loss, right? Net zero gain or there was actual loss there. And they would go through this cycle, 2 or more times a year with all these rental units. And it was absolutely killing him. And so very quickly we went in there, fired like 3 of the people on payroll that were, basically the whole rehab crew because they literally had so much going on in these 30 units. Fired them, put a very simple screening process in place. So you had to have you had to pass income qualifications. You had to also be able to fog a mirror, but you also had to have decent credit, good payment history, very, very simple things because these were nice homes. And literally within a year, we turned that thing around. I mean, we stopped the bleeding very, very quickly. And I think that when we bought it, the gross income in that park was, I think like $240, and his NOI was like $28,000. And it was crazy. At the end of year one, it only took us like 3 months to really fix this problem and work through some of the bad apples. The first year, our NOI, we got up to like 148, I believe, or 152. I mean, literally, we added over $100,000 of revenue just like that, just by fixing that one little small problem. So the challenge there with that is like you got to work through the bad apples that ended up making their way in there, and typically they're going to find their way out the door. And so it's an expensive lesson when you step into a park like that didn't really have a screening process in place, right? I mean, I think ours went much better than what it could have because we had some good management there on site, but yours, it didn't sound like that was the case. So you had not only bad management, but bad tenants. Like you just had a bad community. Like everything there was bad. There wasn't one good element that was trying to help save the day other than you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I learned a ton. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it was a seminar, right? But I mean, it was $100,000 seminar, and I decided to just move forward and start doing C- apartments. But guess what? Those C- apartments were like light years ahead of the mobile home park crew. So then I had no problem dealing with tenants. And so, it's always, if you look forward, man, you just keep positive. It's just money. It's just money, and it's just a lesson.
You weren't doing C apartments in Anniston, Alabama, though, were you?
Heck no. In Vegas, next to my house.
Yeah. So talk to me about what you're doing today, buddy. I know that you're in the apartment space. You own a ton of different franchises. I mean, I don't even know how you find time to just have some quality time to yourself. I mean, it seems like you're just hustling left and right. You got your hands in. I forget what number of franchises you own, but it's a pretty big number. And then you own a bunch of real estate as well. But so you're fully away from mobile home parks. I do know that. But what else you got going on today?
Real quick on that mobile home park, just for your viewers, I sold it for I bought it for the $150 down with the loan, and I sold it for $15K down with the loan 3 years later. And so I lost 135 plus I put about 50 into it. So it was about $108,000 loss. So that was it. Sold it. I was out. Gone.
Any idea where that park's at today? Like, have you kept in touch with that buyer? Have you looked? I mean, there's got to be something in you that makes you want to jump on a plane and go back to Anderson and just check it out.
I would love to. I would love to. I have a buddy that lives about 45 minutes away from there. So if you're ever in Anderson, Kevin, and you let me know, and I'd love for you to drive by.
Yeah, we'll
That'd
do.
be great.
We'll do, man.
So then I started doing apartment investing. Then I got some lessons. I started listening to a few people, and I started going to seminars because I learned that. I went to a seminar halfway through my mobile home park and learned how valuable they are to go to. And I learned a lot. So I started doing apartments, and I started doing 4plexes, 8plexes. So I got comfortable, buy, turn them, rehab them, better tenants, flip them. That's kind of what I was doing. And now we're up to 140 apartments right now in mostly Vegas and Arizona. Mm-hmm. And then we started buying franchises for the cash flow because, apartment game is a lot of long-term wealth game. Unless you're really flipping all the time, it's not a ton of cash flow. So I wanted more cash flow for a team. So we started buying franchises. I built 3 Club Pilates from the ground up, and then I was a successful owner. So they came to me and they said, we have some distressed ones. Would you like to start buying those? And I said, yes, I would do it. So I'm just buying those at pennies in the dollar and then putting more capital into them to get them up. But I'm still way below the price to build one new. And I have 13 now. I have 10 cycle bars and 3 Club Pilates all over the country.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations, dude. That's
Thanks,
incredible.
Man.
So let's talk about time management. So that's a big part of this, right? So as you grow, you're kind of finding your space in this investment world, and you got your fingers in real estate, you got your fingers in these franchises. You got a lot going on. Talk to me about time management. How do you deal with the day-to-day?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I deal with it. I get up in the morning and I do about a 2-hour block of apartments, and then I put in about a 3-hour block after that of franchises, and I try to keep them separated so I can do my daily, I don't get too involved in all of it and the community get nothing done. Another good thing I learned too, I used to be all me, no partners for a long time, try to do everything myself. Mm-hmm. I started getting partners, and I went and I picked people up, my operations manager guy, my regional managers, and I started giving them percentages of the company and equity and knocking their salaries down a little bit. And I learned that you build way faster. You have way more people to bounce high level ideas off of. You have way more time. So that's my new thing now, is I'm just trying to build people below me to help me take care of a lot of things.
Yeah, you got to get folks that have a vested interest. I'd love to learn a little bit more about what that looks like. I mean, what's the general structure look like as far as the the vested interest of your staff?
Yeah. So the franchises and the apartments are kind of 2 different things right now. So
yeah, okay.
The franchises, we have 13 franchises in 6 different states, right? Mm-hmm. And then I have 13 managers, general managers. They're just making the salary. And then above them, we have an East Coast and a West Coast regional. That they get a salary plus like 5% of whatever I do. Apollo 10X, our company, does. Right? Anything moving forward. So our goal is 100 franchises and 1,000 apartments in the next couple of years.
Got it. Is it strictly profit sharing, just from like a cash flow perspective?
Yep. Okay. And equity at the end of the game when we exit.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we make 10 grand a month, they get 5% of that. Right. And then I have 2 partners. We all did the same thing. We said, what's your involvement? They have different percentages, right? Some of them are 30%. They have a little cash involvement, little sales involvement. And then I have another operations manager that gets 5% as well, plus a salary. So I'm about 50%, and the other 50 is broken up between 4 people, plus 3 of them are getting salaries.
Got it. Yeah, no, I got you. Okay. I love the profit sharing model. I mean, you got to empower your people. Like, I mean, if you want them to think like you, if you want them to think like an owner, right? That's what everyone that's got a business, if I hear them gripe and moan, they gripe and moan about, my employee, she or he just doesn't care. They don't give a shit. They don't work as hard as I do. Like, they're not as vested in this. No shit. I mean, like, that's because they're not really a part of it. Like, make them a part of it. Make them feel like they're building something. It's not just going to help you, but it's also going to help and empower them and their family, right? If they're going to put the blood, sweat, and tears in, so you can truly align yourselves with your staff, with your employees, with your leaders in these different organizations that you own, which I think is awesome, man. Going back
on that real quick is Another thing is split your company up into 10 million shares, right? And then you can give your managers, instead of giving them money, give them a bonus of shares, right? Like a corporation does. Like my buddy works at Paychex. It's a big corporation. They get their guys shares of the company, right? Mm-hmm. And that gives them vested interest as well. And you have 10 million of them. Instead of giving them, whatever dollar amount, just give them shares. And now they're in it to the end. So that's another idea.
I love it. So I'm going to revert back real quick to the mobile home park thing. If you were going to go back in time and knowing what you know today, give yourself some advice other than the general advice of like, get educated, do your due diligence more, I guess, more in depth. What other advice would you give yourself, or maybe the new mobile home park investor that's listening into this show right now that's either looking at their first deal or about to do their first deal?
So if I was going to do it again, aside from the education, I would find somebody that's already buying mobile home parks personally, and I would link up with them, take a very small, take a hit on the commission or the percentage, whatever, get your feet wet, walk through the park with somebody on that specific deal. And that's how you learn in this business, in real estate in general. Like you could read everything in the world, you can go to all the seminars you can, but if you don't actually do it, you're never going to learn. And so I think you need to do it with somebody that's experienced, and you got to understand that you're not going to get 50% if you put in 50% of the money if you don't know what you're doing. Like, how it works.
No, that's a great point. And, what I like to tell folks that are just getting started, I see, there's the different grades. So there's the folks that like have very limited capital. And so like that limited capital, they keep that small mindset and they're thinking, I can only buy a 10 space park, right? So they're just looking at the smallest parks out there. They're looking at like in the tertiary markets, like the Andersons of the world. They're buying in small markets, small parks. When I personally feel what they should be doing, they should be forget about their own money that they have, forget about doing a 10 space park. Learn how to underwrite effectively. Learn theoretically the business. Learn how to underwrite and identify and spot good deals. Ideally, larger deals that you can't take down yourself, but get really good at finding them, because really, if there's not a deal on the table, nothing else matters. It doesn't matter if you know everything else. It doesn't matter if you have money if you can't find deals. And so get really good at finding opportunities, but not just finding deals, underwriting them and actually presenting it to somebody, an experienced operator, us or anyone else that can take down the deals, that has the capital, that has the operational experience, and become an asset to them, right? Give value back to them, because what you're going to find is that they're going to be very happy to listen to what you have to say. And they're also going to be very happy to probably make you a part of that deal, because it was a deal that they didn't have otherwise. And you brought value to them. They bring value to you. You're in the space now. You get some credibility, get a little bit of a track record, learn from them. And you talk about a way to fast track yourself into this business or any other business. Yeah. I know that's really big in the multifamily space, right? Like it's a team sport. And that way you don't have to do that 10 space deal. You do 150 or 200 space mobile home park and forget about the 10 space park. Get yourself thinking a lot bigger and align yourselves with folks that are already doing bigger things and find out how to bring value to them. So I don't know if you got any thoughts or feedback on that, Kevin.
That's funny you just said that, because currently right now I have somebody that came to me and I kept seeing her at different multifamily masterminds and this, that, and the other, but she didn't have anything. And she came from the single family space. And I told her, I go, if you go find me a deal off market and then you help me with it, I will give you a percentage and I'll take you under my wing and learn you the ropes, right? She went and found a deal off market. She learned how to do the underwriting just exactly like you said, verbatim. And now she's with me, and I gave her 10% of that deal straight equity. Plus she's getting the cash flow from it, and she's learning everything. I'm having her doing everything, and I'm right there by her side, where if she needs to know anything, I got it. You know what I mean? Like I can do it, but she can do it right there, and she's being watched the whole time. And that's the best way to do it. Like, don't go in alone, man. You're gonna have nobody to learn from,
Yep. No,
it's
absolutely.
Exactly what you said is what I'm doing right now. It's crazy you said that. It's funny.
Yeah.
That's the best way to go. Man.
Yeah, no, it's the way that, I mean, if you talk about fast tracking your way to success, it's the way to do it. I mean, gosh, I'm thinking back to when I got started, 19 years ago as a real estate investor, I kind of, I teamed up, or, I guess not teamed up initially, but I found someone who became my mentor. I didn't know anything about real estate. I just basically saw what he was doing, really liked what he was doing, thought that it would be a perfect fit for me. I was 19 years old, was hungry for money, came from a good family, but very middle of the road, blue collar, didn't have a ton of things. This guy seemed to be living a very cool lifestyle, and I wanted to be like that. And I said, hey, David, what can I do to help you with your business? I was in school, I was tending bar in the evenings, and like between classes and tending bar, I was out in the field with him, basically working for free for like nearly a year and a half. Working for free, literally helping him with contractors, being his courier, right? I mean, just doing odds and ends for him, whatever I could do to be around him, to learn what it was he was doing, to learn how he said what he said, right? How he interacted and communicated with contractors and sellers and buyers and tenants and all the above, title companies. And just I wanted to understand his business. But I knew that in order for me to get value for him, I had to first give value to him, because what was the benefit of him hanging out with me and taking on a somewhat of a burden, because he had to kind of teach me a little bit of what was going on, right? If I wasn't going to help him and give back. And so it's just, that's how you guys got to position yourself. You got to think that way. You got to, I guess, Kevin, you probably get this often as well.
Great point.
Being that you're out on social media quite often, is that you get people that reach out to you, man. Hey, Kevin, can I take 10 minutes to pick your brain? It's like, or can I take 30 minutes to pick your brain? Like that is the message. That's the extent of it. You don't know the individual, but I want to take 30 minutes of your day to pick your brain. Guys, before you do that, think about what kind of value you can bring to the individual. Obviously, you're seeking something from them because they have some knowledge that you really want. So think about how busy they are, first and foremost, and think about how you can add value to their day, so that, number one, it encourages them to actually respond to you. Number two, they see the benefit of actually connecting with you and helping you out in your endeavor. So again, don't know if you have any feedback on that, Kevin, but that's a big one.
I'm actually coming out with a little thing of how to build your team, right? And what you can be. So you either got to think of, are you the guy with the money? Are you the asset manager person? Which, if you have no experience, you're probably not that guy. Are you the numbers guy? Which is a super guy. You love Excel. You want to marry Excel if you could, and you got to learn how to underwrite a deal so you can hand it to that person and save them some time, right? Because time is money, and be able to hand it to them and say, here, this is a great deal. I've researched it. Check it out. And then you look at it and oversee it. So you got to provide value and put yourself in a category before you come to somebody and say, I want to pick your brain. Be like, hey man, I'm a really good analyzer. I've analyzed 100 deals. I love this. I want to be on your analyzing team. Next time you're out in a property, can I go jump out, hang out with you? Like if you call and say, I want to pick your brain, can I go to lunch? No, because it takes an hour to get to lunch, plus an hour at lunch, plus an hour to get back. That's 3 hours or whatever the case is. So, and it's like, you got to build value. You got to bring value and just provide value. Exactly.
Yeah. I love it. I love it, man. Kevin, how do we get a hold of you, buddy? What's the best place to find you for the folks that are listening that want to reach out, not just to say, can I pick your brain, but actually want to see what you're doing, want to connect with you in a positive way and bring value to you and your business? How do they do that?
That's great. Thanks. I appreciate it. Kevin at apollo10x.com. It's APOLLO10x.com. And then if you go to our Facebook group, which everybody's really active in, and we're doing the franchise and apartment thing, and we have some people doing mobile home parks in there as well. And that is, if you go to kevineasterly.com, it will go redirect to our Facebook group.
Already.
It's called, yeah, man.
Yeah, you guys got a lot of great stuff on that Facebook group as well. I mean, you guys you've got a lot of great folks that are members there, and share lots of incredible content on a daily basis, which is awesome, man. I appreciate all that you do. And I'm going to leave this with the listeners and with you, buddy. I know that you had a bad experience with mobile home parks. I've had a really good experience with mobile home parks. At some point, I'm going to get you back over to our side, at least on a deal, and then we'll have a comeback story of like, you know what, Kevin lost $170,000, $180,000 in that mobile home park, but guess what? He just did a deal, did it right this time, and is absolutely selling it.
Yes, I'm gonna pick your brain for 30 minutes about it. You get one.
Good deal, Kevin, buddy.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And guys, thanks for joining us here for this week's episode. And just real quick, want to remind you about the free ebook that you can grab from our website. So go on over to mobilehomeparkacademy.com. You can listen to the podcast episodes there. Again, grab their free book. It's the 21 biggest mistakes investors make when purchasing their first mobile home park, how to avoid them. Kevin should have read this. Unfortunately, this book was not written when he bought that mobile home park, or else he probably wouldn't have made some of those mistakes. But anyway, grab the book. It's free. Again, thank you for stopping by, guys. And this is Kevin Bupp signing off.
Congratulations for taking the necessary steps to achieving massive success through the highly lucrative niche of mobile home park investing. Be sure to visit our website, mobilehomeparkacademy.com, to download your free digital ebook version of the 21 biggest mistakes investors make when buying their first mobile home park and how you can avoid them. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe to our free monthly mobile home park investing newsletter, which is jammed full of valuable tips, tricks, and strategies to help you accelerate your path to success as a mobile home park investor. More information about this podcast and its hosts can be found by visiting mobilehomeparkacademy.com.